Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
My name is Bob Darrell and I am alcoholic. Through the grace of a very loving God who seems to be crazy about me and has no taste. The 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous is outlined in the big book. Good sponsorship, commitments in Alcoholics Anonymous, and bushels of newcomers. I haven't had a drink or any mind or emotion altering substances since Halloween 1978, and for that I owe you my life. I want to thank Chief Jim and his band of Indians for all the work they've done in asking me to come up here and participate. And it's an honor to come to Alcoholics Anonymous. If you're anything like me, it's an honor to be allowed to come here. To be invited is off the charts. I mean, that's just unbelievable. I want to welcome anybody that's new. Glad you're here. If you're in your first 90 days, I'm real glad you're here. If you're in your last 90 days, I'm glad you're here. There's only two. I believe in Alcoholics Anonymous we're brought together by divine appointment. Personally, none of us have anything to do with it. And I feel that I've been brought here to talk to two people. And I don't know who you are, but I know you're here. And the first person I believe I've been brought here to talk to is the man or woman that for some reason you don't understand. You just can't seem to get a foothold here. And you've been struggling around here for a long time, and you've sworn to yourself you're never going to drink again, and you do. And you do again and again, and you don't know what's wrong with you, but you're starting to suspect that whatever's wrong with you must not be the same thing that's wrong with these people in AA who so easily seem to stay sober. I'm here to talk to you because you're me, and I am you because I was a relapser in Alcoholics Anonymous for 7.5 years. I know exactly what it feels like to sit in the middle of AA and feel like I'm dying, and I have a big secret. And the big secret is there's something wrong with me that's unique and not like what's wrong with you. Because I've quit drinking and I'm not really okay. And I don't know why. And I can't explain it. And the other person I'm here to talk to is the man or woman who's leaving AA and you don't even know you're leaving. And you're doing it one judgment at a time, one compromised action at a time. And if you were to look back in the years that you've been sober, you'll see a diminishing amount of involvement in your own recovery as time goes on. And you've noticed lately that there really are a lot of sick people in AA. Church kind of looks better when you're like that, doesn't it? And I'm here to talk to you because you are me also. I'm telling you, I'm lucky to be here. I've had to survive myself to stay here. Because there's only one person that wants my ass out here, and that's me. That's me. And I've had to survive myself and hang on to that seat and let go of or get rid of or anything that would stand between me and that seat in this meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous or any meeting. I don't know why I ended up an alcoholic. My parents were an alcoholic. I came from a wonderful family. I mean, My parents loved me. They always were on my side. They would have done anything to help me or enhance my life. Good, honest, hardworking, principled, loving people. There was a tremendous amount of love in my household growing up. But I couldn't feel it. I was that internally focused and disconnected from out here even back then. I look back at my childhood, and the only thing I remember with real clarity is me. I remember all about me. I can't tell you too much about my mother or father or my sister unless it had to do with me. I don't know how you end up the center of the universe and stay there, but I was the center of the universe. Everything had to do with me. And I don't know why I'm that way. I've always been that way. I didn't know that I had a disease called alcoholism. I think I had it, I believe I had it way before I ever picked up a drink. I was like a freeze-dried alcoholic waiting for alcohol. Because there was something that just wasn't quite right about me. And the disease of alcoholism was touched by alcohol for the first time when I was 12 years old, not quite 13. And it was an event that I didn't know at the time would change the course of my life, and my life would never be the same. And basically what happened is when I drank that alcohol the first time, it really made me feel so good and so connected that the way I would be without it from that moment on would never, ever be enough again for me. And I lived for it. And when you're a young kid and you're, 12, 13, 14 years old, you can't drink every day, but I drank every chance I could get. And it seemed like from that moment on, once I tasted the glory and the magic of that effect, it seemed like partying moved into the center position of my life. And as if I just existed between opportunities to party. And like I'm doing time. And I started getting in a lot of trouble. I was 15 years old, almost 16, and I'm standing before a juvenile court judge for the third time. And I'm in a lot of trouble, and my parents are at the end of their rope trying to keep me from being sent somewhere. And I'm in a lot of trouble because there's something wrong with me that I don't understand. And I don't know anything about alcoholism, but every time I start to drink and go out to party with my friends, I don't seem to be able to shut it down at the right time. I always go a little too far. I always take it to the wall. I always get whacked. Guys I'm partying with will they'll take it right out to the edge and then go home. I don't even know where the edge is, but it's back there somewhere, way back there. I'm that guy, so I'm in trouble a lot, and I'm getting busted a lot, and I'm standing before this juvenile court judge because I have alcoholism and I don't know it. I have that physical allergy to alcohol that Dr. Silkworth talks about so eloquently in The Doctor's Opinion, when he says that this allergy that only ever occurs in real alcoholics. This allergy, he says, it manifests itself in a phenomenon of craving. And I've had that from the very first time I ever drank. I didn't step into it after a bunch of social drinking. I came to the table with it. And yet, most of my drinking, I didn't know I had it. What Silkworth says to us, our alcoholic life seems the only normal one. I don't know that I'm drinking in the grip of a craving. But I'll tell you something that's always been true for me, is that I'm wired differently than non-alcoholics. And I think guys like me, you only ever see that through contrast. My sister is an angel got its wings. My sister is not an alcoholic. And my sister can drink occasionally. And I've watched my sister drink. I'll watch my sister drink like a cat will watch a guy eat a tuna fish sandwich. I watch my sister drink. I even look in her eyes, I want to see the thing happen, and all, right? Still a little vicarious pleasure off of her, watching her get the effect. And when my sister drinks, she's not alcoholic, she's normal. in her wiring, as she starts to experience the glow, that feeling of ease and comfort, in her, when she starts to feel that, she goes, whoa. Whoa. And she shuts her right down. Shuts her right down. I mean, she'll say weird things like after about 2 drinks, I don't want any more, I'm starting to feel it. Please, I don't want to offend anybody, but the truth is, as an alcoholic, it'd be easier for me to have sex, and after 2 strokes, I don't want any more of that, I'm starting to feel it, than to do that with 2 drinks of alcohol. And I started to understand by contrast of experience how different I am from my sister. When my sister takes a couple drinks, she gets a feeling like she's losing control. In my wiring, which is alcoholic wiring, and this only ever occurs in alcoholics, when that feeling starts to hit me, everything in me lights up and goes, oh yeah, come on. Come on. And I can't get enough. I drank a long time, a lot of years. You'd think in all those years of drinking, I'd have one experience. You'd think I'd have at least one. Or I'd be sitting at a party somewhere, a bar, be about half lit up and have the bartender come by and say, Bobby, want another drink? You'd think at least once I'd sat there sometime and thought to myself, no, this is just right. Never, not once. I've never had that experience. Now, I may shut her down if you're watching me and you're on my back about my drinking, or I got somewhere I got to go and the heat's on. But I've never felt like this is just right. No, it's always one more. Matter of fact, I'll drink myself to the point where I'm on the ground and I can't get off the ground. But if you would bring me a drink, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because if I'm still conscious, I ain't done drinking. I mean, you know, and that's always been true for me. I drink myself to sleep every night. I mean, and I've always been that way. And if you're new here and you don't know if you're that way, there's a test in the big book. Not a test I would recommend. I think it's a dangerous test, actually. But it says in 1939, what they used to recommend is they'd say, not sure if you're alcoholic, go down here to the nearest bar and try to drink and stop abruptly. It says try it more than once. It says in 1939 they thought it might be worth a bad case of the jitters. Well, 2006 they've upped the ante a little bit. And I'm not going to recommend that test because you might kill somebody or get a DUI and do a couple years in prison, and I have to sit in a meeting and go, oh man, I recommended the test. That's a bad deal. And if you're like me, if you have the mind of a chronic alcoholic, the test doesn't work. Because think about it. You go into this bar. Okay, I'm going to go in the bar to see. I'm going to take the test. I'm going to have 2 drinks, that's it, shut her down, nothing else, no smoke, nothing, take nothing, 2 drinks, that's it, go home. Well, about halfway through the second drink, it's going to become very clear to me that this is a bad test day. I mean, there'd be some girl there that, it's her. I got to have a drink with her. And then some guy'd come in, it's all got something good going on, got to have a drink with him. Bad test day, tomorrow will be a better test day. And then tomorrow come, and about halfway through that second drink, as the effect starts to hit me, it's like a key turns in my head. And my total ability to rationalize and justify, to minimize danger, to ignore the past and the past problems, my whole thinking and cognizant ability will get behind whatever's necessary to satisfy a craving that I don't even get that's on me. To make the next drink seem absolutely appropriate and my idea. I didn't know that I had alcoholism. I didn't know I was drinking because I was in a grip of a craving that used my mind against me. I had no idea. All I knew, I was in a lot of trouble. And I'm 15 years old, and I'm standing before this juvenile court judge, and my parents at the end of their string, keeping me from going places. They made a deal with this judge, and instead of going to this bad place, I got to go live in another place that wasn't so bad. And I'm not even there, I don't think, a week, maybe a little more than a week, but about a week. And I'm talking to this older guy, one of the hip guys. And I'm telling him my story and, what's going on, all the trouble I'm in. And he's listening to me, and he says to me, he says, you like to party, don't you? I said, yes, I do. He said, but you drink that liquor. That'll make you stupid. I said, I don't know, man. I like that. I liked back in those days, 151 rum, man. Oh, yeah. A couple drinks. I could almost see God with a couple of those. And he said to me, he says, well, of course you're in trouble. You're drinking that liquor. He says, what if I told you I could give you something to make you feel about that good? Hey, maybe better. You won't slur your words. You won't stagger. People can't smell it on your breath. And nobody even know you're drunk. Nobody even know you're high, and you keep a whole week's supply in your shirt pocket. What would you say to that? Sign me up. And he introduced me to drugs, but I'm an alcoholic. Alcoholics should not do drugs. Really seriously, we should not do. We're pigs. I did drugs alcoholically. It was bad. Everything I picked up, I took it to the wall and burnt my life down. And, this guy introduced me to amphetamines, and within a month or two, people that have been tweakers for 10 years are telling me to cool it. Really. Because I got this hole inside of me. That alcohol came the closest to filling up, and I'm trying to fill it up with the other stuff. Within no time at all, I think I've turned myself into a paranoid schizophrenic. If you left me alone in front of your TV or in your car, by the time you came back, I've dismantled your radio looking for microphones from the FBI. I'm whacked. I can't put two sentences together. My head's spinning. It's crazy. And a guy came along and said, try some of this. And when the throwing up stopped, I could think straight again. And it was like everything, this is good. This will work. Yeah. And he introduced me to heroin. But I'm an alcoholic. Well, man, we shouldn't do drugs. I'm telling you. It was a bad deal. I took that to the wall, and then methadone and doctors, and full circle after I burnt all of it out, back to alcohol. Full circle. And I think that I did drugs for the same reason Dr. Bob did drugs. I believe. See, Dr. Bob and I drank a lot alike. Every time Dr. Bob went out to drink, he just got whacked. For God's sake, the day Bill wanted to talk to him, he was taking a nap under the dining room table. You gotta love a guy like that, really, I'm a napper. I'm the guy that's halfway through the night. I'm under the booth in the bar. I'm a napper. Well, when you're running the universe, it's tiring. And Dr. Bob did high-powered sedatives, according to his story, every day of his life for 17 years, and it bought him periods of abstinence from the thing that once he picked it up, he just burned him down. And I'm that way, and I think that's why I did drugs for several years. I had something on my back that was ruining my life, and I thought maybe I could get away with it. But it never occurred to me just to do nothing. See, I'm the guy it talks about in the beginning of chapter 4 when it talks about alcoholism, and it says you get two things. It says two things are present. You're pretty much screwed. It says if you find when you honestly want to, you can't quit entirely. I couldn't quit entirely. The best I could ever do was, if you gave me enough medication or enough something else, I could buy myself short periods of abstinence. That's the best I could ever do. And then the other thing it says, or if when drinking you have little control over the amount you take. And that was always true. That was true from day one for me. It says if those two things are in place, you're probably alcoholic. And if that be the case, you may be suffering from an illness which only a spiritual experience will conquer. And that is the point where I would come to AA and listen to your stories, and then you'd talk about that, and it's like, oh, not the God thing. Oh, no. I remember saying, I had a great experience a few months ago. I got to go up to Maine to do a workshop, and they took me, and I got to go into a meeting in Thomaston Penitentiary. And when I lived in Maine years ago, and I had some amends I was looking for up there, never did find when I was up there recently. But when I was up there, one of the first members of Alcoholics Anonymous that ever got to me was a guy who was a lifer from Thomaston. And I was in another institution, and they let these guys, these trustees from this AA group that were on good behavior, they bring them in a barred van to this other place and let them come in and put an AA meeting in with guards. And I remember sitting there, and this is the first time in several years of exposure to you that I ever saw a guy in AA and heard a guy in AA that I thought I started to identify with, a guy that I thought I might have drank with. And he was a tough guy. He was in there he shot a cop, and he was an outlaw biker, and he was about 300 pounds and big arms on him, like he just did nothing but lift weights 24 hours a day, you know, and he had long hair and a beard and a lot of tattoos, and tough guy. And when you're always secretly weak and pathetic, you like to drink with guys like that. You know, they watch your back. I mean, you know what I mean? And I could put up a good front but the truth is, behind the facade, I'm a scared little kid, you know, and I like guys like that. And I'm listening to him share, and he's talking about some amazing stuff. Man, this guy was afraid of nothing. He carried a shotgun and all kinds of stuff. And then he started saying some things that were making me a little uncomfortable. He said, and then sometimes he'd come to, curled up in a fetal position, shaking like a scared little kid. And he said he'd be afraid to go out in the world and even face people. And I remember sitting there thinking, you felt like that? I've always felt like that. But you felt like that? You're a tough guy. And he's hooking me, man. I'm telling you right about now, I'm ready to sign up for AA. And he talked about coming into Alcoholics Anonymous and how much it's changed his life. And he said one thing I didn't understand at all. He said he found more freedom in doing life imprisonment on the inside through Alcoholics Anonymous than he ever knew on the outside. And I didn't know what he meant by that. I know what he means today. And then he started talking about working the steps and finding God. And the minute he mentioned God, I remember sitting there and going, oh, what have they done to him? Oh, no, not him. He's a cool guy, not him. Oh, man, I just discounted everything he said. Oh, geez. I know about guys like that. I had a running partner, that drank too much, ended up on a street corner with on a coat and tie. It was a sunbeam for Jesus. I know what happened. You drink too much of that cheap wine and your brain turns into a loaf of wet bread. I get it, I understand. And little did I know that these guys were just a little bit ahead of me on a path that I was going to be lucky enough to survive like they survived it. I started going in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous pretty young. I went to my first AA meeting. I wasn't even old enough to take a legal drink. And I just remember sitting there, and it was awful. I'm looking around me, and the people there are like 35, 40, 45 years old. Their life's over. My God. Oh. If I was as old as you and as burnt out as you, I might join AA. Hey, I might join the Salvation Army band, too. I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't understand that I had a progressive illness called alcoholism. The next 7.5 years of my life were the worst. The worst most painful years of my life were after I went to my first meeting. The years I was in and out. And it was horrible. I got to a point where I really started becoming serious about sobriety, and I got to a point where I just make up my mind, okay, man, this time I mean it. I'm never going back to that stuff again. And then I'd enter into this state of abstinence, which is a very awkward state for me. And the longer I'm sober, the more restless, the more irritable, the more discontent I become. I suffer from depression, anxiety, and a loneliness that is hard to put into words. It's the kind of loneliness that you could be surrounded by people who care about you and you don't fit. It's a feeling like sometimes, especially in AA meetings or in groups of people, like it's all of you and then there's me. As if there's some invisible and yet impenetrable barrier between me and you and life itself that I can't seem to surmount or break through, and I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't understand that this malady of my spirit, this thing called alcoholism, really starts where the bottle ends. That when Dr. Silkworth says, of course I will go back to drinking again because I'm restless, I'm irritable and discontent. And I yearn for the effects and the magic I'd once found in taking a few drinks. Because there was magic. I mean, every once in a while I hear somebody in AA that talks about their drinking like it was always bad. I want to say, well, why did you drink? I had some good years. I think all real alcoholics have the years where the hook is set. And those are the magic years. Those are the years where alcohol is a dynamic and effective treatment for this malady of my being. Carl Jung, in a letter to Bill Wilson in the early 60s, said something that I thought was remarkable. It just got me. He said that to Bill, he'd always suspected from experience with guys like Roland that he always believed that the alcoholic's thirst for alcohol really wasn't a thirst for alcohol. It was a thirst of their being for unity, for connectedness, or as expressed in religious or medieval terms, a union with God. I guess I drank because I missed God. Now, if you'd have told me that, I'd have just looked at you. But in essence, I got this vacancy and this yearning right in the center of who I am. And there was a time in my drinking where alcohol satisfied that. Or at least it came closer to satisfying that than anything I've ever known or could imagine. There was a time in my early drinking when a guy who by nature does not fit, a guy who has an inability to connect with other people, that walks under this cloud of loneliness and depression, who just isn't right, could have 4 or 5 drinks and I could come out and play. About 7 drinks and I loved everybody. I love you, man. Remember that feeling you get after you're with your guys and you're getting about half lit up? I'd feel so connected to them it almost bring tears to my eyes. Just, oh man, my guys. Then I'd sober up and I'd be back to being me again. Sometimes in the early days I could drink and I could be funny and creative. And I'm neither sober. I could dance, and I can't dance. But you give me enough alcohol, I'm a good dancer. I could shoot pool better than I could ever shoot pool. I could play the guitar and sing like I could never play the guitar and sing. I could be deep. Deep. You remember? I tell you something. There were times where I get to these points where I go, oh, this is what Buddha saw. You just kind of see the whole thing, Oh, yeah. And then I sober up, I'm back to being me again. I never liked that much. But alcoholism's a progressive illness, and what that means is as the years go on, my ability to get the magic diminishes and becomes more and more elusive. And the price I'm paying for chasing it keeps ratcheting up. And the problems are increasing, and I'm starting to get more and more and more trouble, and it's getting bad. I was a blackout drinker. Oh, man. Any blackout drinkers? Oh, yeah. My people. I'll tell you, it's hard going through life when other people know more about you than you do. Nobody, and you know how we are, nobody ever came up to me the next day and said, "Oh, Bob, you were so helpful at the party last night." You peed in our kitchen. You hit on my wife. You threw up in my living room. You broke my lamp. You sideswiped my car. You passed out on my front lawn. I had a guy come up to me one time. I wish this wasn't true. I remember I wanted to die. Came up to me. He says, "You told everybody last night you beat Bruce Lee in a karate match?" Oh man, I just wanted to die. You know, and it's like awful. And what happens is now I've locked into a perpetual motion machine because now I'm drinking over my drinking, which is a bad deal. And I started trying to get serious about stopping, and I couldn't stop. There's something wrong with me that I don't know that it's alcoholism, but no matter how tremendous my resolve is to not drink. I mean, I can have watched the Father Martin movies. I can have talked to the therapist. I can understand beyond a shadow of a doubt that to pick up a drink is the worst thing I could ever do, that it will burn my life to the ground. I can understand that completely and just be determined not to pick up a drink. And the feelings of restless, irritable discontent, the disconnectedness and loneliness and depression of untreated alcoholism, of this illness of my being, just gradually gnaws away my resolve until every single time, in the face of overwhelming experience that the party's over and this is turned on you, Bob, and it's killing you, the pain of my spirit will become so overwhelming that I will so desperately yearn for an effect I can't even get no more. And I will convince myself one more time that maybe this time I'll be able to drink like I drank when I was 20 years old. And I'll try it one more time. And then when that obsession gets on me, and it's not an obsession. I used to think it was an obsession with alcohol. It's not. It's an obsession with the effect. But when the yearning for the effect is strong enough, and I get that on me, man, I'm the kind of, I know what, I've had that come on me, locked up in a county jail, and found a way to get lit up in there. I mean, we're resourceful people. And when that thing's on me, there's nothing that's going to stop. And if you're an alcoholic of my type, and I don't know if you are, you have to diagnose yourself, but if you are, and you haven't worked the steps, and you don't have a sponsor, and all you're doing is going to meetings, the question is not if you're going to drink again. The question's when. That is a level of powerlessness that is inevitable. With untreated alcoholism, this vacancy inside me will always drive me back to the bottle. And I did that for 7.5 years of relapsing. In 1977, I was in a halfway house for the umpteenth time. And I'm hanging in there, and I'm not drinking day in and day out and week in and week out. And I'm depressed. And I'm not even taking the meds this time because I've tried all this stuff, and I always go back to drinking. And I don't know what to do, and I'm at the end of my rope. And I went up to some old-timer. I'm so bored and lonely and depressed. I said, what do you do for fun? He says, oh, we go to a lot of meetings. Oh, man. You do anything else? He said, yeah, twice a year we have an AA dance. You ever been to an AA dance with untreated alcoholism? Oh, man. I remember quick why I used to drink. Oh, man. The book says we'll know a loneliness such as few do. Go to an AA dance. Oh, man, it's brutal. It's all of them having a wonderful time. And then there's me, standing up against the wall. So I'm at the end of my rope, and I start planning this drunk, because I don't know what else to do. Because AA doesn't seem to have an answer for me, and I don't think I'm like you. To me, AA had good news and bad news. The good news, maybe I went to thousands of these stupid meetings. I'll stay sober the rest of my life. And the bad news, I'm going to live a long time. Because secretly, and I'm not stupid, I know this stuff's killing me, and I know I need to stay sober. But I can't imagine life in a state of abstinence. I can't imagine it. Because it feels like I'm doing time. I can't imagine. So I planned this drunk, and the goal, I'm still a victim of an illusion. It talks about in chapter 3 that under the right set of circumstances, the right conditions, somehow, someday, some way, I'll control and enjoy my drinking. In other words, that I'll be able to get the effect and the ease and comfort and the enjoyment from it that I had when I was 18, 20 years old. And I'm deluded enough to think that in the face of overwhelming experience that party's been dead for a long time. And that I'll be able to control it enough to keep the damage down to something reasonable. And I remember this drunk, I went to meet a guy I'd been in detox with that was back to partying, and he went to this bar he'd been telling me about with his bands and supposed to be great women, and he had some of that stuff from Tyler's Thai Stick, and we're going to go there and light it up, man. And I've been sober a long time, and I deserve this. I've been a really good sport up to now. I remember sitting in the bar, and I was drinking double shots of 100 proof with a beer back. Because when you only got a weekend, you got to get downtown now. And I want to jumpstart the deal, because I'm lonely and depressed here, and I want to be over there dancing with the girls, and I maybe want to shoot some pool and laugh around, carry out with some of those guys over there. I want to have some fun. I don't want to hurt nobody. But aren't I entitled to have? For a little bit of relief, a little bit of fun, a little bit of ease and comfort, for God's sakes. And I'm sitting at that bar and I'm throwing down those double shots, but the party ain't jump-starting. The only thing that's jump-starting in me is the phenomenon of craving, and it's one more, and I'm frantically throwing down these shots, and I ain't getting lit up, I'm getting depressed. And I'm starting to feel sorry for myself, and I'm looking at everybody in the bar that's laughing and having fun and thinking, what's wrong with me? And it's breaking my heart. And it was like a window opened, and for the first time I could see the truth. I could see reality. And reality is that this is it. This is all I've gotten out of drinking, is this self-pitying, pathetic crap. And this is all I've gotten out of it in a couple years. The illusion of having fun. I haven't had fun drinking in a while. I drink now and I just feel sorry for myself. I go in crying jags. I might end up in an emergency room. But it ain't going to be good. I don't bathe no more. I might the first night off on a run maybe. But I don't bathe no more because I don't care. Because if I can't get that magic, there ain't nothing else to live for. And it was like the window opened and I saw the truth. I saw reality. There's a movie out years ago, a great movie called As Good As It Gets. And there's a scene in there where Jack Nicholson's walking through a waiting room to this psychiatrist's office. And everybody in there is a mope. Everybody in there is doing depressed and just doing terrible. And he stops in there and he looks at all of them. They're all looking at him and he says, what if this is as good as it gets? And they all go, oh, no. And that's exactly what it was like. I get it, that this is as good as it gets. And I didn't end up back at that halfway house Sunday night like my plan. I ended up Monday morning coming to in a county jail facing 2 years in a state penitentiary for a hit and run, DUI, and a stolen car. a level of damage I didn't count for. But when I drank, you never knew what was going to happen. Sometimes I'd just get drunk and pathetic, and other times I'd end up in jail. You never knew what was going to happen. It was like spinning a roulette wheel. You never knew. And I'm in this jail, and they gave me a phone call, and there's nobody to call. My parents wouldn't help me anymore. And my parents really loved me. But I beat that out of them. And it was a long, tedious process. My sister wouldn't help me. I had no more girlfriends. It's hard to get a girlfriend when you're homeless. I mean, it's... Well, no, it is. It's not, what do you say to some gal you meet? You want to come back to the halfway house in the TV room and hang out? I mean, a lot of panache to that. So there's nobody to call, so I sign up and go to this meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous in the county jail, in Beaver County. I go there for one reason and one reason only. I'm not going there for recovery. I've given up on you. I've come to the conclusion that whatever's wrong with you is not the same thing that's wrong with me, because when I get sober, I know very painfully how I am when I've stopped drinking and go to your meetings. And I know how you are because I've watched you. And you stop drinking and you're wonderful. You really are. You're wonderful. You're happy. You have an ease about yourself. You're successful. It seems like everything you touch turns to gold. You have great relationships with people. And I'm not like that. See, I'm not like you. I don't know what's wrong with me. I've gone to the therapist. They can't put their finger on it. People tell me it's alcoholism, but I know it's not. It can't be. Because I seem to get so weird when I quit drinking. So I go to this AA meeting not for recovery. I go for cigarettes. That's all. And I was going to try to run a game on some guy. And this guy came in, and I knew he's leading a pack of do-gooders. And I've known this guy for a long time. He used to bring meetings into the halfway house I was just in. He used to bring meetings into this treatment center Gateway that I was in. He brought him into St. Francis. This guy was everywhere. He was a real H&I guy. And I didn't like this guy, Woody, at all, man. He's one of those... First of all, he's something that is creepy to me. He's happy and sober at the same time, for God's sakes. And he's grateful for everything. Oh, man. And he's got a miracle life. Oh, yeah. So here he comes, and I don't want to see Woody. And I go up to him, and I shake his hand. I make some wise remark about, look like you're doing good, kid. Oh, man. And he says, he's always talking about wanting to help you. So I thought, I knew he had a big house. If I could get him to put the house up for my bail. And these people in AA are hypocrites. They say they want to help you until you explain it to them. And then they don't want to go along. He wants to get me a big book. I don't want a big book. I don't, believe me. I don't want a big book. I want out of here. And he won't get me. He wants to give me a big book. He won't get me out on bail. And so I just went into my act and I said, I don't need your help. I'm going to get out of here. I'll beat this thing. I'm going to get in a good halfway house. And I'm going to get some of that Voc rehab money. Go back to college. Maybe I'll be a doctor or a lawyer or something. I'm going to turn it around. And he's looking at me and he's shaking his head and he's going, kid, who are you kidding? You're not going to do any of that. You're not even going to stay sober. Kid, you're probably going to die of alcoholism because you haven't hit a bottom. You haven't surrendered. And I didn't say nothing to him because I don't do confrontation well sober. But I just remember I went in that meeting. I sat there. Did you ever just think it's somebody in a meeting? And I'm thinking at him in the meeting. What I'm thinking is, how dare you say that to me? That's the most negative thing I've ever heard. Where's the AA love? I need positive reinforcement. I don't need that negative, haven't hit a bottom. You with your Cadillac and your big house and your fancy job at the steel mill. Woody, you don't know nothing about me. Haven't surrendered. Surrendered what? there's nothing left. I mean, a couple years ago, I had a motorcycle and a girlfriend and a job, and I even had a little bit of self-respect. That's all gone now. And I didn't know what he was talking about. The next year, I started to connect with Alcoholics Anonymous, and I heard a speaker named Chuck Chamberlain talk, and when Chuck talked, I knew exactly what he was talking about. I think there's only one thing I ever have to surrender. It's the thing that keeps me separate from you, kept me separate from God, and cut me off from all the good things that life would ever offer a guy like me. And it's my judgment. I'm one of those guys, I can go on a run and alcohol and strip me to the bone. I end up in Alcoholics Anonymous. First thing I get back is my opinion of everything. You know, and I got that judgment thing going. I know what's good. And what he saw when he looked at me is the same thing I've seen weekly for 28 years. I do a lot of hospital inside. I've never been a period where I don't do at least 2 H&I meetings a week. And I see myself, I see the exact same thing that Woody saw. Over and over and over again. And what he saw is he saw a guy that was dying of alcoholism. And yet, in spite of that, he's insisting on being at the helm of his own ship. Insisting on it. And see, I didn't know what I had to surrender. And that's all I got to do is surrender my opinion and judgment of what I need and what's right and what I should do next. I almost have to become childlike to get to the place where I know the most important thing I will ever know is that I don't know. And it was my knowing that kept me from getting to you. And if I ever leave Alcoholics Anonymous, it'll be because I'll become the guy who knows again. And I think that judgment is the essence of my will. The thing that I have to surrender to God. I'll tell you, this sounds weird, but I believe this. I think if you can let go of your will, really let go of it, I think you can keep your life. As long as you give up your opinion of it and let God do His thing. The problem is I came into Alcoholics Anonymous in 1978. I'm trying to give God my life, and I'm retaining my will, which is my judgment of my life. And if you do that, sobriety is very uncomfortable. Because what you're really saying is, here, God, here's my life, and there's a list coming of how it better go. And you know what depression is? That's when God stops doing your will. And the fear and anxiety of my will may not be done. So I went before a kind judge who I didn't think was kind at the time, and he sentenced me to, I heard him sentence me to 2 years in a state penitentiary for a felony DUI, hit and run. And then he stayed the commitment. And then he said something to me. He said, listen, you go into this place called the Ark House, and it was the only place that would take me. This is not even a treatment center, really. It's kind of like the Midnight Mission in Pittsburgh. And they housed about 200 guys that were either out of prison or off the streets, homeless guys. This is the bottom of the food chain for alcoholism treatment. But they would take me. And he said, if you go in there and you stay a year, you get good UAs, good PO report, make the restitution. We'll take a look at this and we'll reduce it down to a misdemeanor and you'll be okay. But if you can't do that, it's going to be a felony and you'll do the 2 years. And I went into this place, the Ark House, with a serious determination not to drink. I'm dying here. I got to turn my life around. I got to do something. But when it says in our book that lack of power is our dilemma, they're not kidding. And I don't have the power. I can make up my mind I'm not going to drink. I used to remember sitting in meetings and I'd come back from a relapse and people would almost say, well, you just not made up your mind. You wanted to be drunk more than you wanted to be sober. Well, not always. There were times I really was very serious about not drinking. I just couldn't take it anymore. And I didn't know what to do. It's like something had my emotions in a vice and they were just cranking it tighter and tighter. And I went into this place, the Ark House, with a tremendous determination not to drink, and I drank again. And I got thrown out of there, and I'm on the streets, and I'm dying, and it's horrible, and it's not fun, and it's pathetic, and I'm feeling sorry for myself, and the self-pity is overwhelming. And I go to a bridge to take my own life. I'm going to be back there next month in Pittsburgh, and I'm going to go back down to that bridge. I visit it every time I'm in that part of the country. First time I looked for it, I couldn't find it because they painted it yellow. It used to be dirty black, and you could, dirt. It used to be horrible. And I went out to that bridge, and I'm not a suicidal guy, but I'll tell you, I couldn't do this no more. I got to make this stop. Because if you put me in a trap I can't spring, you put me in a place where drinking is awful and pathetic and depressing, and not drinking is awful and pathetic and depressing, suicide can start looking like a good deal to a guy like me. But I've always been a coward, and at the last moment when it was time to jump and just end this dog and pony show, I couldn't do it. And I slammed my hand on this piece of metal on that bridge, cursing myself, screwed my hand up for being a coward. And little did I know that I was going to come off that drunk in just about a week or so in a strange city in a hospital in Las Vegas, Nevada. That I would be reintroduced again to Alcoholics Anonymous, as I've always been in institutions. But this time something would be different. The Buddhists say when the student's ready, the teachers appear. And what I think happened to me is that I got to the place it talks about, and there is a solution where it says, and finally there was nothing left but to pick up the simple kit of spiritual tools laid at our feet. No more plans, no more hope, no more I'm going to beat this, I'm going to do this. I was nothing left. And I was finally ready to be with you. I was finally an alcoholic of the hopeless variety. And I sat there in those meetings, and the message of Alcoholics Anonymous washed over me. And for the first time in 7.5 years, I heard you. I mean, I heard you. And I sat there and I listened to you, and I found myself nodding my head and thinking, oh my God, I'm like that. And I watched this guy, and this guy that became my first sponsor, he's actually sort of, I still pay him respect today, and I see him and talk to him at least once a week, and he's a dear, dear friend. I watched him. And he was something that I wanted and couldn't believe I could get. He was very happy and comfortable sober. And I knew that from listening to him, I knew that I was like him, but he wasn't like me no more. And he did something. And I thought to myself, my God, maybe if I did everything he did, maybe what happened for him could happen for me. And I guess that was my commitment to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I got a home group, and I started going to 15 and 20 meetings a week, and I started going on 12-step calls when I was brand new. And I thought they made a mistake. I thought, no, I'm not ready yet. I said to this guy, Joe, I'm not ready. I don't feel like I'm ready yet. He says, listen, kid, if you wait till you feel like you're ready before you try to help anybody, you'll have already died of alcoholism. Because you just do it. Just do it. And I just started going on 12-step calls. I started going into the hospitals and institutions. I got cleared to go into Gene prison. I wasn't even... Today you couldn't even do it because I was just a couple months sober. Today they wouldn't let you. I started going in the care units, and I started showing up and trying to do what you guys did. And I started staying sober. And I don't mean just not drinking. Something was changing in me. And it wasn't changing all the time, once and for all, because I still battled with a lot of bouts of depression because I haven't worked the steps yet. And I didn't really work the steps out of the book until I was over 4 years sober. My first 4 years of sobriety were tough. And I was trying to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. I did the first 3 steps and then did a BS version of step 4, like my shame list. I didn't do what it says in the book. So I have not dismantled the judgment machine that is my will. As I had to see how really wrong I'd been about everybody on my hit list, my resentment list, and how wrong I'd been about my fears, and how I believed them and made them come true, and how wrong I'd been about this vacancy, this misinterpreted yearning that I always thought maybe was really a need for sex or a relationship, and it wasn't. It was a God hole. And how wrong I'd been about all this stuff that was the driving factors of my life. And so what I would do is I'd get up every morning and I'd turn my will and my life over to the care of God. And 20 minutes later, I'm full of anxiety. Before the day's over, I'm usually having bouts of depression. And the only thing that's keeping me sober is I'm doing a lot of 12-step work. A lot. And I'm going to a lot of meetings. And I guess in a sense, I'm trying to outrun my alcoholism. But it kept me in good stead. When it says in the beginning of working with others that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics, it saved my life. Till I could eventually take the steps and get some of me off of me. And abandon some of those old ideas that blocked me from God and blocked me from you. There's an interesting 2 paragraphs in the book that have really come to mean a lot to me. And they're on page 55. And it's really a vision of what I'm going to find somewhere between step 4 and step 9. And it says I'm going to find the great reality, capital letters, in a place I wouldn't imagine. It says that I'm going to find it deep down within me. I remember hearing some of the giants in AA talk about that, listening to the still small voice and the God within. And, I don't have none of that. I go in me. I don't run into God. I run into a pack of crazy people. I mean, whoo, crazy. But the book nails it. It says because I'm blocked. He said this God within me is obscured from me. It's blocked from me by 3 things. By calamity. We all know what calamity, alcoholics we're drawn to calamity like to a moth to a flame. I like it right out on the edge, man. I like to be in a juggler with my own life. The book says I'm a producer of confusion rather than harmony. I like getting it spinning out there. I feel alive. I feel like I'm going to die, but I feel alive. You don't know what calamity is? On a bad day, when you've been running the universe and it's not doing well, imagine a surgeon could implant a microphone into your brain and for a whole day we'd get to listen to what you're thinking. We would hear calamity. And then the other thing it says it's blocking us is pomp. Is that I get so full of myself and my judgments and my way and me that there's no room for anything else. Not even you, not you, and not God's grace. I'm like a glass of water full to the top. There's no room for anything else. And then the last thing it says, worship of other things. And I had a hard time getting that. And I'll tell you what happened to me. You could have put me on a lie detector in my first couple of years of sobriety and asked me if now that I'm sober, do I worship anything? And I said, absolutely not. And it would have said I was telling the truth. And I had this deal come down. I was sober a little less than 2 years, 1.5 years, 2 years, somewhere in there. And I'm ending my first sober relationship. I got to tell you, I don't think there's a more self-obsessed person on the planet than an alcoholic ending a relationship. Oh, man. You can go up to a guy like that and say, I just came from the doctor. I have terminal cancer and 2 weeks to live. And he'll say, do you know what else she said? That's funny, but that's true. It's real. That's why it's funny, because it's true. And I'm like that. And I go to this meeting, and I'm nuts. I am insane. And I'm so up in my head, I can't get out. And I can't hear nothing in the meeting. What's going on in the meeting is like music in a doctor's office. It's just so far away because the big show's on the inside. And I'm up in here plotting everything. I'll drive by her house and see if any guys' cars are there. And if I see her, then I'll say this. And then she'll say that. And then I'll say this. And then she'll say that. And then I'll say this. And she'll be properly ashamed of herself and beg me to come back. You know, right? It's hard to hear anything in a meeting when you're doing that, right? Because she's a member of AA and she's not in that meeting, it's like some hideous force has implanted a spring in the back of my neck connected to the meeting room door. Every time the door opens, I go like this. Oh, not her. Okay. So, God could have been trying to talk to me through the people in the meeting. It ain't getting through, man. Nothing's getting through. And it's a hideous meeting. It's one of those meetings where it's full of loving relationships, you know. It's one of those, I think the subject's gratitude or something. So the meeting is over. I have not heard anything. I'm worse now. And I go out to coffee with some people, and there's a guy from Glendale, California. He was a visitor in town, and I remember he told me he was 28 years sober. I've never found this guy. But he was there that night. And we go out to eat, and we're sitting in this restaurant, and I'm telling him about this relationship. And I'm telling him about it for 20 or 30 minutes until his eyes have glazed over. And he's just listening to me. And he's not even interrupting. He's just listening. And when I'm out of gas, he says some things to me that I'll never forget. He said to me, he says, "Kid, you ever thought about the first commandment?" I said, "No, I'm not into that. I'm just into AA." He smiles. He says, "Yeah, I know." He says, "You and I are a lot alike." He says, "Guys like us, we can't get past the thou shalt not." He said the first commandment is, "I am the Lord thy God, thou shalt not put false gods before me." He said, it's my experience you can do anything you want. God will love you. He will love you no matter what. You can put anything you want between you and God. God will love you. The problem is, you've just put something between you and God. You've just blocked the light. He said, when you worship something else, it doesn't mean to bow down to. He said, when you worship, it just means simply to obsessively turn your consciousness towards. He said, you want to know what you worship? He says, make a pie graph of everything you've been thinking about today, and the thing that owns the pie is the thing that obviously you've been obsessively turning your consciousness towards. When he said that, I could picture this pie graph with a little sliver for A, a little sliver for work, and the rest of the pie was her. And I knew why I was in such desolation. I knew why it hurt so badly. And I knew that I somehow must let go of this, because it is keeping me a prisoner right up in here. And I needed to get free. And I don't know about you, but I stay locked up in here long enough, I'm going to start to yearn for freedom. And when that's on me bad enough, the only thing that's ever in my whole life that ever got me free like that is about 4 or 5 shots of tequila. And I was cut off from you, and I was cut off from the sunlight of the Spirit, and I was cut off from God. I really wish that I could stand here and say something like, well, I learned my lesson and never did that again. Boy, do I wish I could say that. And if that's your experience, help me. Because that's not my experience. Because I keep grabbing onto stuff and putting it in and making it so important that it becomes the focus of my life. And every time without exception, I've ever done that, I've lived in the darkness. My soul, my spirit has become sick, almost like a plant that you cut off from the sunlight. And the problem with me, with untreated alcoholism, is my spiritual malady gets worse. I don't always know that I'm getting sick. often it looks to me like you are. And I just might need to straighten you out. Which can make sobriety at times a lonely, lonely business. I started doing 12-step work, like I said, when I was new. I started sponsoring guys. I got a sponsor, and I've had a sponsor nonstop. And more importantly than that is I have tried to remain sponsorable. Because you can have the greatest sponsor in the world, and if you're not sponsorable, it means nothing. It's just a showpiece. And you can have the worst sponsor in the world, and if you're sponsorable, you will get well. Because it's not so much that you have to have a sponsor or even a God to turn your will and your life over to. You just got to get it out of the hands of the idiot that is you. And if you ever come to Las Vegas, I'm a member of a group called the Specific Group. I'm proud to be a member, and we have a big showcase meeting Thursday nights, but the real meat and potatoes of that group happens down at Detox several times a week. It happens in the county jail on Wednesday nights. It happens sometimes in the halfway houses. It happens when we answer the phones Wednesday nights. It happens in action in Alcoholics Anonymous, because a group is really a fellowship in action behind a purpose that is greater than themselves. A purpose that our literature says is primary. And the real members of my group, the ones that I feel the closest to, are the ones that you watch their feet. You don't listen to what they say. Watch their feet. Watch them show up at those places. Watch them say yes to Alcoholics Anonymous. This is not anything you talk about at the podium. This is Alcoholics Anonymous in action. It's the real meat and potatoes. Nobody gets sober by hearing some fancy stuff from some speaker. People in Alcoholics Anonymous, like me, get sober and stay sober because our feet keep taking us to the places we need to go. We start acting like a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And we have sober members of AA have a primary purpose. I'll tell you a quick little story and I'll shut up. I was up in Northern California in the Oregon border years ago. I don't even know how many years. Maybe 17. Maybe more. I don't know. But I was up there at this monthly AA event that they had up there, and it was a Saturday night thing, and then Sunday this guy had a late flight out, and this guy's showing me around. And he took me up to this place that had these trees that were just unbelievable. And some of these trees were 200-300 feet high. I mean, they were just unbelievable, 20, 30 feet in diameter. Some of them, I'd never seen nothing like it. And I'm walking around this forest. It's like Jurassic Park or something. It's amazing. And we get back in this guy's truck, and we're driving to go see some other stuff. And we're going by these meadows and fields and stuff. And he says to me, do you notice how there's none of those 300-foot trees all by themselves in a field? And I said, yeah. He says, you know why that is? I said, no. Why is that? He said, well, it is their nature to aspire to grow to such magnificent heights that alone they will outgrow their roots capacity to support them. And they will literally topple over on their own aspired magnificence. He said what must happen is that they must grow up in community and intertwine their roots in a net below the floor of the forest, and they will literally feed and hold each other up. And that, and only that, allows them to grow into their nature. And when he said that, I thought, oh my God. You see, there has been something that has always been wrong with me. Something deep within me has always yearned and thirsted and hungered for more. I have always aspired and craved to take bigger bites out of life. I have always been that way. I've always been the guy that Father Ed Dowling told Bill Wilson he was, the guy with divine dissatisfaction. And alone, it all but killed me. And I came to you, and I got a sponsor, and I got commitments in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I started sponsoring people, and I literally wove the very roots of my life in with yours into a fellowship in action. And you've allowed me to grow into the life and the person I've always aspired to be. I have a tremendously good and big life today. And it's not my fault. So don't be getting pissed at me. And there's people that are pissed at me because I'm doing well. Well, I'm sorry. That's not my fault. You want to see what I did with my life? I'll dig up some old pictures. This is not me. This is really the result of almost 28 years of 12-step work and willing to be wrong. My sponsor says something, and I have a guy that I love right now who's going. He's just overly right. My sponsor says nobody ever drinks again over character defects or making mistakes. They drink over defending them. And I'm telling you something. If you are the type of person that I was at one time and you can't be wrong, you're going to have a hard time here. Because the only thing you have to surrender to ever get comfortable in abstinence is the thing inside you that demands that it's right. That demands it. A great man who died of cancer years ago in Las Vegas told me, he got in my face, his name was Dale, he was a wonderful guy. There's funny characters in AA. He's one of those guys that looked unhappy, kind of gruff-looking guy, always talked kind of gruff, but he had that twinkle in his eye. He's always kind of smiling, but he didn't want you to see him smiling. Right? He's one of those kind of guys. And he got in my face one day and he says, listen, kid, he says, I'm going to tell you some things going to save you a lot of grief. He says, I just want you to get it, kid, that if you're defending something, if you're rationalizing something, if you're justifying something, kid, I want you to know that you're wrong. Because you never have to defend, justify, or rationalize what is right. And just a couple of days ago, I'm confronted about something. And I catch myself explaining myself. And I knew. And I had to go back to this guy and make amends. I said, I was out of line. Yeah, I think you're right. Because if you weren't right, I wouldn't be trying to explain myself. Right? If you're new, welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. AA has good news and bad news. The good news, I am convinced with everything in me that Alcoholics Anonymous and the fellowship and the process in those 12 steps is an effective treatment for the inside sickness of alcoholism. The bad news doesn't work as fast as 5 shots of tequila. Thank you for my life.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think. Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.